Okay.
That I didn't even know.
Okay. So whenever you're ready. Okay, and pretend like this is not even here.
Well, asking about the Afro-American history of baseball and so on, I got familiarized with it in starting in about 1977. I was the editor of a plant paper, newspaper, and writing different articles about the plant and this and that and the other thing. And Elmer came to me one day. I didn't know the fellow at the time, but Elmer Anderson came over and said he had an idea maybe I could use for the paper. Write about former athletes that had been athletes and were now working in the plants. And we had a few of them right there at Detroit Diesel where I worked. So I said, hey, that's a pretty good idea. Maybe we'll thought it over. I said, okay, let's give it a whirl. So we started interviewing athletes in the plant that had been played baseball and various other sports, mostly baseball. And got it widened out a little bit. We talked to them. I wrote a few articles. They went over okay. So we started interviewing other people from other plants and around the whole city, getting names and addresses and going out and interviewing, talking to him and talking to them wherever they were and writing a lot of articles. And I didn't know much about the old black baseball leagues at the time. But the more I got into it, the deeper I got talking with these guys, I knew that there was a lot of history there. So I decided, told Elmer, I said, hey, we ought to do something about this. You don't hear about it. I didn't know about it. I said, I'm finding out a lot of things, and I suppose a lot of other people would too if we could make it known, get it out there before it all gets lost. So the farther it got, the more we got together, the more information I got. First I thought, well, maybe I can get a right book or I wrote about it. But I could write articles, but I hastened writing about a book and got a few problems with people that didn't want their names in the books unless they got paid for it or something. So I said, well, sooner or later something's got to be done about it. We kept working out, and I got the idea maybe of a hall of some kind, show the history of it. And it went on and on and on, about 5 years. About 82, when I recruited a few others along the way, and we got together down at the Dr. Wright's museum and Afro-American museum that he had, and had a meeting. So we decided, well, we'll try for a museum. And that's where it really got started then, about 82, as far as the museum thing is concerned. And it took a lot of work. We had all kinds of problems. We went north, south, east, and west, interviewing people, talking to them, recruiting people around Detroit to help us with it, getting a board of directors together. Originally, there were only 7 of us meeting for a while. And little by little, we got some impetus and got things moving. So, well, there's where it started. And since then, we've just been trying to add to it. We did eventually. We had stuff stored here and there in places, but no place to show it until finally we're able to get into the Wayne County building, the old one, which had been renovated and so on. We got in there and got a place to put our things and started collecting as much as we could on it. So it's very intriguing, very interesting history of the old leagues, black leagues, which is what we were focusing on, the black baseball leagues, because it seemed that more black players in there where played baseball, more black sportsmen played baseball back in those days than there was any other sports. They weren't into them. So more and more we worked at it, the more history got, and I started digging in books and magazines and old newspapers and all that sort of thing, get as much information I could, and I gathered a lot of information on the league. The when they were formed, how many players, but the fact is remains that from about 1895 on, blacks weren't allowed to play in any white leagues at all. Before that, there were, I have the names of about 8 people, supposed to have been about 13 blacks originally, that played in white leagues. And then they were cut off, period. And from then until about 1955, when Jackie Robinson came on, there were no blacks participating actively belonging to white leagues, so they formed their own. On the same basis that the whites had. They had their national league and all the way different leagues, different teams joined the leagues, and they had a real going organization. Supposedly, the first one that was in was a player that were playing for the Toledo Mud Hens, or like a team there. And he was a black player playing on a white team. And that was Freeman Walker, called Fleet Walker. He was a student at Oberlin College in Ohio, moved to University of Michigan, and he became a 4-star athlete at University of Michigan. Could have played maybe football or something like that, but he went into baseball with the Toledo Mud Hens. And while he was playing there, that team joined a regular league. They were non-league players at the time, but they joined a regular league. And because the team as a whole joined in the league, he became the first black player to play in a white league. That was back in about 1887, 88. And his brother, Willie Walker, played with Toledo team, and he became the second one. He didn't play at the time they entered, but he did get on the Toledo team and became the second black player in a white league. As far as blacks in other than leagues, there was a black player with the, I believe it was a Hartford team, that played all around the country. They had a real big baseball team and played teams from all over. And they had one black player on there that played. And there were others here and there that got in, but that way back in the early. But it's somehow or another, they decided that blacks couldn't play with the whites, and a white team couldn't play a black team. Not in league. They could play them as a barnstormer team, but a white league, say the Philadelphia Phillies or something like that, wanted to play against the blacks. They couldn't do it as a whole team. They had to bring in players from a few other places, so that they weren't considered the Philadelphia Phillies as such. They were composed of various white players. They could then play a black team. But other than that, they couldn't. Funny part of it is, the Philadelphia Phillies, one year they were champions, got beat by an all-black team. And showed the blacks could play baseball. And they went on and on and on till there was various attempts to pawn the black off, say, as a Cuban or an Indian or something like that. But as soon as they were found out, they were kicked back out. The whole league team would either get rid of the guy or get him off. So that's a lot of history that still is not fully recorded and should be. And we're attempting to at least put some kind of history out there that people can understand on that. Not only in baseball, but then we became what they call the international. And we took in players of black sports from any sport, from hockey, from football, to field, and so on and so forth. And that's what we're doing. Since it's interesting, before we were started, and we were the first such black athletic museum to set up anywhere in this country. We researched and searched and could find no other black museum, sports museum around. But since we have formed and got going, I think we helped spur the thing along a little bit, because now there is a black Hall of Fame out Midwest, and I understand there is another one talking about setting up in California. It's called the African-American Sports Hall of Fame. This will be their name. That's the name they've got designated for it. I don't know. I think that's an encroachment on our name, for that matter. Because we started out as the Afro-American Sports Hall of Fame and Gallery. And we added the International to it later. So if somebody out there starts a team called, the one called Afro-American Sports Hall of Fame, I don't know. That seems to be a sense of we're an encroachment on our name, and might be able to stop from using that exact name at least. But that isn't in effect yet. But they're talking about it maybe in starting in '96, along with a couple of other things that they're doing out there in California. So it's a great thing, because we had some great black players. You could put together a team of black players who could undoubtedly hold the world title. Ex-black players could undoubtedly have held a championship year after year. Pitchers, catchers, and fielders, and so on and so forth, that were great. They were as great as any white man in any league, as far as their playing concerned. They didn't get paid much for the time, maybe $50 as they passed the hat. Some players did end up getting a few $100s,